Hello again, and welcome back to week 19 of year 3 of the religious education. Of the religious education initiative. This is day 2. Uh, this is some wisdom from a monastic father, Saint Dorotheos of Gaza. He was a monastic saint in the 500s after the Lord's birth. He seems to have been born into an upper class family in Antioch around 500, but he devoted himself to monasticism from an early age. He eventually came to be in a position of oversight of other monastics, and it is from this time in his life that we have writings of his, guidance that he provided to others who were also devoted to living a life of prayer in community. So, we can call this on blaming others or simply on living with other people. So, St. Dorotheos writes, "There came to me once two brothers, not brothers of blood, but two monastic brothers, who were always arguing. And the elder was saying about the younger, I arrange for him to do something, and he gets distressed. So I get distressed, thinking that if he had faith and love towards me, he would accept what I tell him with complete confidence. And the younger was saying, Excuse me, Reverend Father, but he does not speak to me with the fear of God, but rather as someone who wants to give orders. I reckon that this is why my heart does not have full confidence, as the fathers say. Impress on your minds, St. Dorotheo says, that each one blames the other, and neither blames himself, but both of them are getting upset with one another. And although they are begging each other's pardon, they both remain unconvinced, because, they say, he does not from his heart show me deference, and therefore I am not convinced, for the fathers say that he should. And the other says, Since he will not have complete confidence in my love until I show him deference, I, for my part, do not have complete confidence in him. My God, do you see how ridiculous this is? Do you see their perverse way of thinking? God knows how sorry I am about this, that we take the saying of the fathers to excuse our own will and the destruction of our souls. Each of these had to throw the blame on the other. What they really ought to do is just the opposite. The first ought to say, I speak with presumption, and therefore God does not give my brother confidence in me. And the other ought to be thinking, my brother gives me commands with humility and love, but I am unruly, and I do not have the fear of God. Neither of them found that way, and blamed himself, but each of them vexed the other. Don't you see that this is why we make no progress, why we find we have not been helped towards it? We remain all the time against one another, grinding one another down, because each one considers himself right and excuses himself, as I was saying, all the while keeping none of the commandments, yet expecting his neighbor to keep the law. This is why we do not acquire habits of virtue, because if we light on any little thing, we tax our neighbor with it and blame him, saying, he ought not to do such a thing, and why did he do it? Whereas ought we rather to examine ourselves about the commandments, and blame ourselves for not keeping them. How did that elder reply when asked, What do you find most important in this way of life, Father? And he replied, In everything to blame oneself. And when his questioner agreed with him about this, he underlined it by saying, There is no other way but this. Now, this is a monastic. This is a monastic situation. These are two monks here, and it's easy for us to say, well, this is irrelevant to us. What monks do in monasteries is not really anything to do with what we do in the world. But I want you to consider how many conversations that we see between siblings in their teenage years run in this way. More than this, how many conversations that we see between husbands and wives, especially if they find that they're arguing a lot and they have to go to the priest or even to a marriage therapist to try to work it out. How often do they not say, I'm doing all the right things, I have good intentions, but my brother or my spouse, they should do this. I see, the situation, and if they would only act in the right way, then it would be easy for me to act in the right way. But they don't, and, well, they have to go first. They have to fix it. How often do we see discord in the church where we see everyone else looking at the people that they're arguing with, people that they're struggling with, and say, they're not acting like Christians, Father. If they'd only act like Christians, then I could act like a Christian too, but they started it. We know that this isn't right. We know, if we think about it even for an instant, with clarity and discernment, that the gospel, the commandments of the Lord, the guidance that he gives us to follow him, they are given to us. They are not given to us as a club to beat our brother and sister about or over the head with. They are given to us as a scalpel to apply to ourselves. So when the Lord says, do not resist evil, turn the other cheek, he's not telling us when you hit someone, they should turn the other cheek so you can hit them a second time. He's saying when you are struck, when you are attacked, when you are mocked and belittled, when you are mistreated, don't resist it. Entrust yourself to me, he says, and turn the other cheek. This is the path. And if all of us who are faithful to the Lord, if all of us can walk in this way, then we will certainly find, not that our life is easy, but we will find the Lord's blessing sustaining us and keeping us. But if all we can do is point a finger at someone else and say, they're not doing it right, we make ourselves look ridiculous. When I was a teenager, there was a country song that kept on going again and again and again. The refrain was, do you want to kiss, right? And the female singer would sing, do you want to kiss, do you want to kiss, do you want to kiss? You go first. Oh, we say the same thing in our lives. We say, do you want peace, do you want peace, do you want peace? You first. But we have to start. We have to begin. We have to follow Christ ourselves. And that may very well free our brothers and our sisters to respond to the call of the Lord themselves and to stop pointing the finger at us. So, God bless you all. May we all be granted to walk in the discernment and peace of the Lord. See you all for day 3 shortly.